Hey everybody, this is some guy named Rob, and this is your 2018 WWE Fastlane pay-per-view review and recap video. We're in Columbus, Ohio, and we open up the night with Shinsuke Nakamura versus Rusev. And for those of you wondering why I'm not starting off with a recap of the pre-show match, where Ty Dillinger and Breezango take on Shelton Benjamin, Chad Gable, and Mojo Rawley, is because I didn't tune into the show in time to catch it. So if you want to know more about that match, check out Lee's video. He caught it, he reviewed it, and either way, neither of those six guys are relevant anymore, or so it seems. They're being put on the pre-show as kind of a way to tell you that you don't really have to care about them. So I'm going to take their advice and just not care. So back to Shinsuke Nakamura versus Rusev. I like the crowd tonight. The crowd was very hot, trading supporting chants for both Shinsuke as well as Rusev. Speaking of, Rusev looked really great with his in-ring psychology, taking time to duck out while Nakamura taunted him. The match overall very entertaining. Each man looked like they had scouted the other really well, and quite honestly, I really like those types of matches where it looks like the two guys kind of know each other pretty well. They know what to expect, so then they start to pull like different tricks out of their bag in order to kind of try and put the match away. I thought the finish was very strong. Rusev looked like he actually could pull off the upset with the accolade before Shinsuke snuck out the back door. Hit a Kinshasa strike to the back of Rusev's head, then got him from the front, picked up the victory. And although Rusev did lose, and let's face it, everybody saw that coming, Rusev looked really strong in defeat, and thankfully he hasn't been completely lost. His heat isn't completely gone, in spite of not really having competed on TV in almost 2 months. So next up, we have Bobby Roode defending his United States Championship versus Randy Orton. This match was also pretty entertaining. It went on longer than I expected it to, went on longer than it probably needed to, but it didn't really overstay its welcome, which is kind of unusual because I'm not a big fan of Randy Orton matches. Not that he's not good technically, he's just something of a charisma black hole. And I don't know, I get bored watching them for longer than 2 or 3 minutes. I did like seeing both of the men go for their finishers early to try and get into each other's heads. It really gave a feel like the match could end at any moment, and actually does play into the finish of the match. The crowd didn't seem quite as into this one as they were for the Nakamura Rusev match, but they still were pretty good. There were a lot of creative counters, which I thought the crowd would pop a little bit more for when the guys were trying to avoid falling prey to each other's finishing maneuvers. The match ends after a sequence of trading heavy blows, followed by each man countering to escape the other's finisher. And Roode lands a beautiful spinebuster on Orton, and only gets a 2 count out of it, so he goes to the second rope looking for a blockbuster. Orton catches him out of midair with an RKO and takes the victory, along with becoming the new United States champion. Now, I have to say, I really think Roode deserves all the credit in the world for putting over the young upstart Orton. I think it's really good to see the new generation of superstars being put over on the big pay-per-view shows. So congratulations to Randy Orton. I'm sure your future with the WWE is looking bright indeed. Yeah. All sarcasm aside, or at least for the next couple of minutes, I'm not a fan of this title change at all. I was actually chatting with Lee during the pay-per-view, and he said he wasn't really all that surprised, as the WWE these days seems to be all about setting new records, and having Orton win the Grand Slam by capturing the U.S. title really fits in with the mindset. It's a big bragging rights thing. My problem with this is that, yes, you do create a new Grand Slam champion in your pantheon of great champions, which, frankly, I don't think Orton really qualifies as, but that's another topic altogether. However, what you lose is a chance to stabilize the U.S. title. If you go back to January of last year, that's about 15 months, no one has held the championship for longer than 90 days in a row without a title change. In fact, The last time someone held the US title for longer than 90 days was a 107-day title run when then champion Rusev was beaten by Roman Reigns at Clash of Champions. Roman Reigns. I wonder when they'll start giving that guy another singles push. So following the match, Jinder Mahal hits the ring and attacks Orton before Roode catches Mahal, spins him around, and plants him with a glorious DDT in the middle of the ring. And for good measure, picks up and plants Orton with one of his own before Roode storms out of the ring in an apparent heel turn or tease. So this would be the first match of the night I did not call correctly, as I foolishly thought. What was I thinking? Why would they stabilize the title until at least WrestleMania, or, around Money in the Bank, or God forbid even SummerSlam, and then just have Roode, turn heel while actually holding the belt? They went ahead and full on with the title change. We then spend the next 4.5 minutes hyping up the Ronda Rousey Stephanie McMahon saga from the Raw brand. Now, there's a time and a place for hyping up your Monday Night Raw matches at WrestleMania. It's called Monday Night Raw. If you can't set up your storylines with 3 hours of TV per week, plus your Raw exclusive pay-per-views, then maybe your creative team needs a little bit more creative, because clearly more time isn't helping. Next on the card is our We Need to Give the Women Something to Do match of the night. So we have Becky Lynch and Naomi taking on Carmella and Natalya. And before anyone jumps into the comments to accuse me of being needlessly cynical, even the announcing team had a really hard time spitting out the flimsy justification for this match to take place. You could almost hear Corey Graves' eyes rolling in his head as he half-heartedly spit out the scripted announcer hype spiel to sell this match. So no, I'm not being needlessly overly cynical. Like, this match had no reason to exist. When I was chatting with Lee, actually, he was surprised that this match was actually on the main show, not on the pre-show. Because normally this is the type of match that you throw on the pre-show. It's a nothing match that has no stakes. There's no consequences. There's nothing. When nothing's at stake, there's no tension. Without tension, there's no interest. Sort of the hard part about that is, if you put this match on the pre-show, it's kind of hard to talk about and brag about your women's revolution when all you'd end up with is a singles match between 2 women on the entire pay-per-view. So yeah, this was a we need to give the women something to do type of match. It was largely forgettable. Did have a couple cool spots. Naomi's modified split-legged stunner looked great, even if Natalya sold it completely wrong. I mean, in her defense, she grew up in the Hart family, so, I mean, we all know nobody in the Hart family would have any idea how to sell a stunner. Natalya did get her own memorable spot, hitting Naomi a couple moments later with a really, really good-looking sit-out powerbomb. And I would have been happy if the match ended there. I would have been okay with the heels winning on a match like winning the match on something like that, because that powerbomb looked absolutely brutal. It was great. The match does end when Natalya distracts Becky Lynch with the Money in the Bank briefcase, allowing Carmella to sort of spin her around, land a super kick, and pick up the win. Now, I had originally called for the heels to lose this one. This was a case of my completely forgetting to listen to my own logic for not only this pay-per-view in my preview video, but also preview videos that I had done previously, or at least the preview video that I had done for Elimination Chamber. When you are on the go-home show and you win cleanly, don't expect to win on Sunday. Becky Lynch beat Carmella cleanly with the disarm her. It was time for Becky Lynch to return the favor, give Carmella a little bit of a boost with the Money in the Bank briefcase. I should have known better. I should not have picked the faces to win this match whatsoever. So that's 2 matches in a row on this card that I've called incorrectly. And I am currently 0-3 for calling tag team matches on pay-per-view. So, yeah, not really a good look for that going on, but whatever. It is what it is. And just to see if they can pour a little bit more salt in the wound for my inability to call tag team matches properly, next matchup is the Usos defending their SmackDown Tag Team titles against the New Day. We opened the segment with a promo package, which I believe is exactly the same video package that they had on SmackDown last week, which made this feel like a lot of filler, which is kind of as you'll notice as time goes on, this is kind of a staple of this show. There's a lot of filler going on. The New Day come to the ring, and the only reason why I feel compelled to comment on the intro is that I'm really hating this overuse of text and emojis popping up on screen during promos. It's spilled over into ring introductions. It looks stupid, and it needs to stop. Speaking of stupid and needs to stop, can we put a limit on the number of super kicks per match? If you turned any Usos match into a drinking game, you'd need an intravenous system rigged up to get the shots into your body fast enough to keep up. Now, granted, a big theme of this match was each team using the other team's signature moves. So you had the Usos hitting the Midnight Hour, and you had the New Day hitting the Uso splashes, and of course that also meant that you were trading about 200 super kicks. It just gets boring. You can't tell me that you can't add another 3 moves to your repertoire just to mix things up a little bit more. After a while, the super kicks get really old and really tired, and I just can't pay attention anymore. Eventually, the action spills to the outside. The Usos hit a double suicide plancha onto all 3 of the New Day members. We have all 5 men recovering out on the floor. Music hits. Here come the Bludgeon Brothers. And this will begin one of the most epic beatdowns I can remember seeing, at least in recent history. The beatdown felt almost as long as the actual tag match, and it was like the pro wrestling equivalent of that cop car scene from the Blues Brothers movie, where it's just car crash after car crash and layer upon layer of excess. And it culminated with the exclamation point of Xavier Woods being double power bombed onto the steel ring steps on the outside of the ring. And the selling job that he did on that, yeah, he looked like he was going to die. It was amazing. It was just sheer brutality, and they just basically put it out there that Rowan and Harper are for real. They're now part of the main event tag team scene. They will be going to WrestleMania and facing off for the belts, whether or not it's a one-on-one or a triple threat tag match for the titles, yet to be seen. I don't think it matters after this type of a beatdown, really, but we'll see what comes of this. And speaking of WrestleMania, because we haven't had enough Raw-related content on the show, we spend a few more minutes recapping the Roman Reigns-Brock Lesnar saga before cutting to a backstage promo with AJ Styles, and then cutting to yet another video package to introduce the Charlotte Ruby Riott match. For those of you following along at home, counting the extended beatdown and the last match, we go nearly 15 minutes between the end of the tag title match, where it ends in a no contest with the Usos retaining, to the start of the women's championship match. Add in the Ronda Rousey package from earlier, you've got about 20 minutes of pure filler in a pay-per-view that ultimately ended 8 minutes early. Is there a reason we couldn't have added a cruiserweight match in there somewhere? Anything? Anybody? This, of course, brings us to Charlotte Flair defending her SmackDown Women's Championship against Ruby Riott. And actually, this women's title match was pretty good. I found it to be very entertaining on the whole. Ruby Riott looked great. She looked a lot stronger than you would have expected, with her only being 5 months on the main roster versus the veteran Flair. I have a theory about that, which I'll get into in just a moment. The match starts when both women attempt a very quick finisher, each showing off to the other just how close they were. You were this close to being put away in the opening seconds. Of course, this would have been a lot more effective if it hadn't been done earlier during the U.S. title match. But, points for trying, at least. Points for effort. Lots of back and forth, with Riott looking quite a bit more athletic than I remember seeing her on SmackDown. It wasn't just sort of kicks and strikes and punches and stuff like that. There was a lot of really good worked spots to really get this match, give it a really big match feel, because let's face it, this was a placeholder feud for Charlotte on the way to WrestleMania. This was not going to be the feud to take her into WrestleMania. So the fact that they put this much effort into a blow-off match, so to speak, while all the while building Ruby Riott as a very credible threat, was actually kind of nice. It looks like they're setting up for a future payoff. Again, I'll get to that in just a moment. Charlotte, for her part, looked great. Took a couple of really, really amazing top rope spots, top rope bumps, or bumps from the top rope, I guess, if you want to put it that way. She was shoved from off the top rope to the outside of the ring into the barricade by Ruby Riott. And then Charlotte took a really good-looking Hurricane Rana off the top rope, which could have been a match finisher if you really wanted to do it that way, or maybe a setup to a Riott kick if you wanted to have the title switch hands. The actual finish comes after a pretty odd but cool-looking slingshot into the top turnbuckle by Flair on Riott. Follow that with a spear and a figure eight, finishes things off. Charlotte retains. Charlotte gets about 45 seconds to celebrate when all of a sudden Asuka's music hits, mask comes up on the screen, lights start to dim, and out comes the 2018 Royal Rumble winner to make her official challenge for WrestleMania. Finally, 6-7 weeks after the Royal Rumble, we finally get to find out who Asuka wants to challenge for the title. Long overdue, in my opinion, but at least they finally got to it. Now, this spot both pleases me and annoys me. On the plus side, it means that the women's main event at WrestleMania should really be an amazing match. It's going to feature two of the best workers on the women's roster going at it for the title, should be part of a co-main event. The part that annoys me is that having Asuka actually come to the show, come out to the ring in her ring attire, and not do anything other than point at a sign is, if you'll pardon the pun, pointless. How would I have done it better? Well, okay. Do everything up until Asuka actually walks out. Have Flair win. Maybe start cutting an in-ring promo only to be cut off by the lights going out, music hitting, mask on the big screen, and then just have the picture pulse back and forth to the rhythm of the music between Asuka's mask and the WrestleMania 34 logo. This gets the whole point across, with the added bonus of creating some talking points for Raw and SmackDown this week. And on SmackDown this week, then you can do the face-to-face as confirmation. Fans appreciate visual storytelling. That's a big part of what pro wrestling is about. We're not dummies. If you were to have shown it in that way, everybody would have gotten the point, and it would have created more buzz. Now, getting back to what I was talking about a little bit earlier with Ruby Riott, I have a feeling that Ruby Riott and the Riott Squad are going to play the sort of resentful second fiddle to Asuka. They're not going to be happy that Asuka's come over to the Blue brand, that she's taking their spot, and it's probably, you got your 3-4 weeks before WrestleMania, so, each one of them will have their match against Asuka to kind of, as a tune-up for WrestleMania, to give a chance for Asuka and Charlotte to kind of scout each other, watch each other's matches from a distance, etc., etc. No chance on the streak being ended before WrestleMania at all. So it's going to be more of a mind games type of thing between the two. Now, in order for that to work, you do need the Riott Squad to come off strong, especially the leader of the Riott Squad, who will probably face Asuka maybe 2 weeks before WrestleMania or a week before WrestleMania. You need that to kind of happen. So building Ruby Riott up in that way actually makes a lot of sense. This brings us to our final match of the night as AJ Styles defends his WWE Championship in a 6-pack challenge against Baron Corbin, Dolph Ziggler, John Cena, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, the Brooklyn Brawler, Abe Knuckleball Schwartz, and the smell of fresh waffles on a Sunday morning. I'm going to come right out and say it. I'm not recapping this match. I refuse to try and sum up what is essentially a 6-vehicle car crash. This match is a one-fall spot fest, and it would be like trying to explain watching bumper cars at an amusement park. What I will do, however, is offer up what I felt was the good, the bad, and the ugly of this match, because there was some of each. I'm going to start with the good. I'm going to start off on a positive note. The right man won the match. Fans want to see AJ versus Shinsuke as the main event at WrestleMania, period, end of sentence. I am one of them. There's no debate about this. No one wants to see John Cena in there as a triple threat. John Cena cannot hang with AJ Styles and Shinsuke. And for anyone who needs proof of that, go back to Wrestle Kingdom 10, where Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles faced off for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. That match was a classic. You're not putting John Cena in there. It's like putting a playing card in the spokes of a Ferrari to make the broom broom sound. It's not going to work. Now, unfortunately, all good things must end, and that's pretty much all the good that I have for this match. The good part is that it ended with the right person keeping the belt. Now, the bad part isn't necessarily bad per se, but it's something that could have made this match a lot better and a lot more entertaining if they had done this as a championship scramble instead of a one-fall six-pack challenge. In my opinion, the WWE blew a huge opportunity to test the waters with having different men as the WWE champ by making this a match where you could conceivably have as many title changes as you want, but the winner of the match is the man who holds the final fall within the set time limit. Now, if you took out the half hour of filler that was wasted in this show, tightened up a couple other matches, trimmed down the Randy Orton, Bobby Roode match, you could have given all 6 of these guys a 1-hour time limit. As many falls as possible, last fall is the champion. Better yet, you can make these title changes canon. You could see the type of reaction that Sami Zayn would get if he were to beat Kevin Owens in the ring and temporarily become the new WWE champion. Or what kind of reaction would a guy like Baron Corbin get from the fans as an interim champion? Or imagine the emotion that you could get by having John Cena win his 17th championship, only to have him lose back to AJ Styles in the dying seconds of the match. So he has that bittersweet moment of, yeah, I won my 17th championship. I am now the record holder, but he still doesn't get that automatic match at WrestleMania. He gets nowhere near the main event. This is the type of thing where the WWE could have legitimately had their cake and eaten it too, and they completely decided to throw it away in what is essentially a useless one-fall match. The other benefit to having it as a championship scramble, when other than like a one-fall winner-take-all, it could have allowed you to avoid the ugly, which was Shane McMahon getting involved in the finish and having a hand in determining the outcome. Now, technically, I know that no, his actions didn't directly influence the finish of the match, but for as much as the WWE pays lip service to listening to what the fans want, they are sure turning a deaf ear to not wanting McMahon's involving themselves in major storylines in the main events. And that's what we got here. People are sick of this sort of thing happening, and it keeps happening over and over and over again, and the company doesn't realize this dynamic has worked exactly once in company history, and that was when Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin were at each other's throats and kicked off the Attitude Era and really set the Monday Night War into full-blown, full gear everything. Since that time, it's just been an annoyance. It's been a nuisance, and really, it's taken time and spotlight and ring, whatever you want to call it, TV time, ring time. It's taken push or focus away from at least one person on the main roster who probably could use it, who could probably use that time to get themselves over and build a new future star, build a future star for the company that fans can actually get behind, or build a future heel that fans love to hate. But wasting that kind of time on the McMahons, it's just a waste. And it's really a shame that they keep going back to this when it doesn't work, which is a lot like the whole making Roman Reigns or putting Roman Reigns in the main event of the last 4 WrestleManias. But anyway, history repeats itself all the time, it seems. So I guess that brings us to the end. AJ Styles wins. He holds the title high. Show goes off the air. As John Cena looks all dejected and is hurt in the feels because he has no WrestleMania match. Lol. Overall, this show is far better than it had any right to be. I'm going to go ahead and give it a B-. The booking of the matches at the last minute was slapdash at best. Sacrificing the stability of the U.S. title to give Randy Orton a WWE moment no one was really asking for was questionable, to be polite about it. But I'm going to give all credit in the world to the performers for making it work as probably about as well as you could have expected, especially considering the dumpster fire that was SmackDown last Tuesday. Okay, everything except the women's tag match. That one still kind of sucked. We'll see you in the next one.